Hi folks, I'm Jordan Bateman, the British Columbia Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and this is another edition of Let's Talk Taxes. This piece came from a conversation between our Ontario Director, Christine Van Geyn, and myself, as we talked about the fact that BC Finance Minister Mike de Jong was actually headed to Toronto to speak to their Board of Trade. We were wondering, what lessons could these two provinces learn from one another? Well, what we figured out is that Ontario is in a lot worse shape than British Columbia. And together, Christine and I co-wrote this piece, Ontario Should Pay Close Attention to BC. BC Finance Minister Michael de Jong is in Hogtown this week to speak to the Toronto Board of Trade about opportunities for economic growth in both British Columbia and Ontario. Ontario taxpayers should hope and pray that their Finance Minister, Charles Sousa, will be in the front row taking copious notes. Given the province's vastly different track records, it's hard to believe both these governments call themselves liberal. No doubt de Jong will use the opportunity to tout BC's solid AAA credit rating and their 4 consecutive balanced operating budgets, a stark contrast to Ontario's unbroken string of 9 deficit budgets and 2 credit downgrades. How did BC do it? Well, Sousa's ears should especially burn as de Jong lays out how the BC Liberals have saved the taxpayers billions of dollars through tough but fair deals with public sector unions. After the 2008 economic downturn, the BC government got every public employee to sign a net zero contract, freezing pay for 2 years. This was followed by 2 years of cooperative gains contracts where every raise had to be funded through savings in the same contract. As times got better, government workers signed 5-year deals with modest raises and the opportunity to earn economic growth dividends. If BC's economy grows faster than predicted, employees get a raise. That's right. Government employees now have a tangible financial stake in BC's growth. Last year, that meant an extra 0.45%. Now, BC is by no means perfect. In order to truly improve opportunities for economic growth in BC, as de Jong has titled his Board of Trade talk, he needs to address BC capital debt, which is growing at about $500 million a quarter. The BC Liberals also collected a healthcare tax, a head tax, through an inefficient, antiquated, expensive system separate from income taxes. They've hiked that MSP tax nearly 40% over 5 years. This is relatively little compared to what Sousa needs to do to improve the train wreck of Ontario finances. Indeed, there isn't much BC can learn from Ontario unless the lessons are about what not to do. In 9 years, the current Ontario government has more than doubled the debt. For the first time, a Canadian province has $296 billion in debt and will surpass $300 billion this summer. This has made Ontario the largest subnational borrower in the world. At $11.7 billion per year, interest payments to cover this massive debt are the 3rd largest expense in the budget and are the province's fastest growing expense. Ontarians' hard-earned tax dollars are being spent at a rate of nearly $1 billion a month just to pay the interest on the Kathleen Wynne Sousa credit card. In his February 25th budget, Sousa pledged that Ontario would return to balance by 2018, but somehow the minister expects that feat to be achieved without fiscal restraint. Instead of holding program spending at 1.4% growth as recommended in the Drummond report, or by following the Canadian Taxpayers Federation's recommendation to freeze program spending, it will grow by 2.3%. Instead of restraint, Sousa's plan involves squeezing more money out of Ontarians by hiking taxes on everything from wine to natural gas. His plan involves selling government assets like Hydro One and then counting that revenue twice by applying it both towards deficit reduction and new spending. And his plan involves fantastical revenue projections at a rate of 5% growth, double the average 4-year revenue growth rate. Minister Sousa should pay careful attention during Minister de Jong's visit this week, but it's unlikely he will. This Ontario government rarely looks west for anything, except equalization checks of late. That's Let's Talk Taxes. Thank you for watching this. You can download this as an audio podcast on iTunes. Just search for Tax Talk in the iTunes store. For more information on us, taxpayer.com, or visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/taxpayer.com. Thanks, everyone.